I was up in this other random county. And when I came out of the courthouse, a man in a hoodie and glasses was videotaping me.
Hello and welcome to the Attorney Post, where we give you the inside scoop with top attorneys in their field. And now, here's our host, Justin West.
All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Attorney Post, where we discuss what's going on in various facets of the law with attorneys at the top of their game to help you navigate the ins and outs of various legal fields and jurisdictions. Because, as I always say, if you don't know your rights, you don't have any. Today, I'm very happy to be joined by Hannah Hembree Bell, who runs the eponymous law firm that bears her name down in Central Texas. Hannah, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. So happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Thank you for being on. We're going to start by jumping over and taking a look at your website. This is Hannah's website. It is hembreebell.com. We'll have a link in the description as always. Again, they are premier Texas divorce attorneys. They specialize in all of Central Texas, especially around Austin, San Antonio, etc. And you can actually call and get a free case evaluation with them. Just call 512-559-8247. That's 512-559-8247. And as always, that'll be at the very top of the show notes down below, whether you're watching this on YouTube, listening to it on Apple, Stitcher, Spotify, iTunes, whatever it happens to be, and also on our blog, on our podcast as well. So please feel free to reach out to her, and we will learn more about her as this progresses. Before we do that, though, we are going to read from our sponsors at the top of the hour. Our first sponsor is nationalerc.org. You may have noticed that the world went through a pandemic pretty recently, and many businesses were forced to shut down. They had reduced hours, they had supply chain interruptions, and ultimately they suffered from reduced revenue in 2020 and 2021. What you may not know is that Congress passed the CARES Act, which allocated $400 billion in stimulus funds for small businesses that never needs to be paid back. It's not a loan like the PPP or Paycheck Protection Program. It is essentially free money in the form of a tax credit that your business can use in whatever way you think makes the most sense. The money is still on the table for the time being. It will not be there forever, so it really is kind of a limited time thing. Right now, nationalerc.org is helping small businesses get the maximum amount of money back that they can. And you can calculate and see how much you can get back by visiting nationalerc.org. The average small business they work with gets back over $200,000 to reinvest in their business however they see fit. And again, it never needs to be paid back because it is functionally a tax credit. The calculator is completely free, and there's never any cost unless they're able to secure funding for you. That is nationalerc.org. Our second sponsor at the top of the hour is Groove Funnels. If you love spending $5,000 to $10,000 to build a new website, you love paying $500 a month for hosting on platforms that let you run podcasts and webinars and all sorts of stuff, then by all means, keep doing whatever it is that you're doing. But if you're like me, I hate that stuff. And that's why I personally recommend Groove Funnels, the all-new, all-in-one website marketing platform from internet marketing legend Mike Filsaime. Visit theattorneypost.com/groove to sign up for free and build a complete website at no cost. Literally no cost, no credit card required. In fact, I believe you can build up to 3 fully functioning websites, and it really is a Swiss Army knife of a website that does just about everything you can imagine, from building pages and funnels to allowing you to sell things to your members, your clients, your customers, whatever they happen to be, as well as running affiliate programs, having a blog, hosting video, and having webinars and everything. It really is an all-in-one tool. And again, you can get started completely for free, no cost, no credit card. Visit theattorneypost.com/groove. That is theattorneypost.com/groove. Alrighty, so again, I am joined by Hannah. Hannah is the founder and managing partner at Hembree Bell Law, focusing her practice on family law, divorce, and of course, estate planning. She has a passion for helping individuals and families navigate complex and emotional legal battles, and she's driven by her own experiences with divorce and family disputes. Before starting her own firm, Hannah worked in a large firm in San Antonio, but she shifted her career to a more personally fulfilling amount of work, which is, of course, her work that she does now in family law. With her extensive education, including a JD from St. Mary's University of Law and an MBA from Liberty University, Hannah offers compassionate and knowledgeable legal support for clients throughout the Austin, San Antonio, and all of the Central Texas area. Having said all that, that was kind of a mouthful. I'm sure I missed a little something there. So my first question to you, Hannah, as always, is what did I miss?
Oh gosh, I don't know. People say that I get to going fast. Woo! Justin, you get to going. But no, so yeah, so I'm Hannah. I practice primarily family law. We do a bit of estate planning for our clients down in Austin, San Antonio. I'm a mom. I've got 4 kids, 3 from my prior marriage and 1 with my husband, Drew. I'm remarried, plot ruiner. And we live in Austin. I used to live in San Antonio and did employment law, which have found to be A really helpful area of law to have done if you own a business. So that's been pretty helpful. Really, the MBA and then that experience doing employment law have really set me up. When now that I own a firm and have quite a few people here, and it's been good training ground. I didn't know that at the time, but it's been helpful.
Well, that's awesome. I'm sure 4 kids keep you busy. I've got 5 myself, so we also stay busy, which is
Woo!
good.
We got a whole football team
There you
between
go.
us.
Keeps you out of trouble, or gets you into more trouble. One of the two. I'm not sure which one it is. Um,
Both
well, so Hannah,
probably.
let me ask you, what got you into law? Were you the little girl? Did you have Lawyer Barbie? Did you grow up watching Perry Mason reruns, or did you kind of just fumble your way into law? What led you into law, and why ultimately family law?
Yeah, my own personal experience. I'm a divorce lawyer, and so I definitely bring a practical, real world approach to this whole thing. And no, I mean, I didn't. To be honest, I don't think I saw a lawyer as something within my reach. I'm from a little bitty town in East Texas, and I mean, I just didn't even think of that as a choice, I guess. And if I would have thought about it, because I did debate and stuff, and people would talk about lawyers like, oh, they love to argue. And like, I don't really love to argue, actually. So I didn't really think about it. It wasn't until I was doing my MBA coursework and I took a class by a practicing attorney who was teaching business law in my MBA. And I was like, huh, I kind of like this law stuff. I think I might kind of have a knack for it. So that's why I like went to law school. I'd had a recruiting business before I went to law school, and I liked it fine. And it was good and solid, and it was kind of starting to really get some traction, but it wasn't fulfilling. I mean, I thought, oh man, I really want to love my job. I really want to do something I really like. That's why the MBA, I was thinking, like I started out with getting a master's in human resource development, like a MS in HRD. And I
Mhm.
thought like HR, okay, in my brain, like I'm going to be kind of do the fun stuff at work, like be a trainer or something. Little did I know that actually HR is absolutely not for me. But anyway, I switched over to MBA, and wasn't quite sure. And then after that class, I decided to go to law school. And really, I think that the more interesting part of that whole thing is that when I went in, I started doing real good in school, and so I had some opportunities that I didn't anticipate, like going into big law, and that's how I did employment law. But it was my own divorce and custody drama that got me into the family law world. And like two things happen for people who go through that. Either one, they run for the hills and are like, I hate family law. I never want to deal with it ever again. Or two, they set up camp and start doing that. And I was obviously the latter.
You're in the latter too. Well, that's fascinating, and it's interesting. I've commented on this repeatedly with various people in various fields. They make psychologists get psychoanalyzed before they can practice, but they don't make surgeons get operated on before they can practice, right? And there's certain fields where I feel like going through it would be very helpful. And I feel like going through divorce, I don't wish that on anyone, obviously, and I don't think anybody does, but it's a reality on the ground. And I feel like understanding especially with kids, with 3 kids, and I'm sure there was custody questions and all sorts of things that went on there. It has to give you perspective and insight that is, I would imagine, more or less invaluable. So let me ask you this. What's your pitch? Give me a pitch for your firm. If I didn't know who you were and we were in an elevator together, tell me why people choose you. Who's your ideal client or clientele? Who comes to you? How do they find you? And why do they choose to work with you? Are they aware of your experience? Is it, does your reputation precede you? Give me the 411.
Yeah, I mean, so at Hembree Bell Law, we help marriages end well. And for us, that's not like, kumbaya, consciously uncoupling ending, but as well as we can given the clients in the situation. So, like, our vision is to be the premier good guy, good gal law firm in Central Texas. So, like, anytime any opposing counsel learns we're on a case, I want their feeling to be like, oh, good. I know they can be reasonable. I know that we can work together, as to the extent it's possible. Not in every family, it's not. But I think that approach aligns with our clients, the ones who make it here. In every initial meeting we have with people, we explain, like, look, we're assessing whether you're a good fit for us and you're assessing whether we're a good fit for you. Like, there has to be this match. And so for me, people who generally speaking, want to do the right thing, want to do right by their kids and their, X factor, and try to end it as on a good of terms as they can. They resonate with us. Like if somebody comes in hot and like, I want to take them down, I want to take them for everything they're worth, blah blah blah. I want them, whatever. They're not gonna line up with how we are. It just won't click. Like one time, I had a referral, and this person came in and said, "Oh," and I said, "Well, how'd you get my name?" And he said, "Oh, I'd asked on something. I wanted the meanest bee in Texas," and I'm like, that's interesting. And you got to me, like, I don't know. I've been called a lot of things, but the meanest bee in Texas, I don't know about that. I mean, behind my back, maybe, but not to my face. So anyway, I think people resonate with that notion of ending well, trying to do things the right way. I think a lot of people do resonate with my story, just like, to the point you mentioned earlier about being a divorced divorce lawyer. And look, I'm not saying you have to be divorced to be good at this. Clearly, there's like really, really good lawyers who are not. And I do think it colors and influences everything that we do up here, because like I always am thinking like, how would I handle this if it was my own life? And let me tell you what happened to me. In my experience, I'm very open about that whole entire situation that's, ongoing. And so I think bringing that practical approach, like I'm not just here to tell you what the law says. I mean, a lot of times in real life, it doesn't even really matter that much what the law says. Because like, no, but what do I do on Friday night when he or she doesn't show up? And they're supposed to bring me the kids. Like, okay, well, what does the law say? Well, I can tell you that maybe you could file a motion to enforcement and that'll get you to court in 2 months. Or I can tell you what to do right now because I've sat there and been there myself. So I think that people resonate with that. Like I make a lot of videos and stuff on the internet. People can follow us at Hembree Bell Law on all the things. And I think that practical approach, you're never going to hear from me like, I don't know, like, well, we don't do a lot of just CYA the way some law firms can. Like we don't treat every case like you've got to go through this system and we've got to do full discovery because if not, blah, booga booga. We try to help people effectuate the end of their marriage or the next stage in their custody situation in a way that's as practically efficient in everything as possible. Oh God, here we go. Here's me. I'm just seeing me. The Instagram and stuff pulled up. So yeah, there's a lot of videos and things out there in the universe.
There you go. We'll try and include a link to your Instagram down below as well. So if you guys want to dig into what she's doing and what she's teaching, it looks like there's a lot going on there. I see a lot of people. You guys have a very busy staff there. You've got what about was it 8 or 9 attorneys and like a half a dozen paralegals and everything else. You guys have a very well established firm.
Yeah, we've got about 30 members on our team. I think we just added our 30th person or 29, like right at about 30 people.
That is awesome.
We got a good team at our firm. We've got really great admin team, paralegal squad, lawyers. We always say we do serious work, but don't take ourselves too seriously, which I think people resonate with. Like, oh, I don't really want to have to call you all the time, but I'll kind of miss when I don't get to talk to you. We try to have a modern and fresh approach to this whole thing. We're always trying to leverage tech to the extent that we can to save our clients money, save our clients time to better support them. Always trying to improve. We have 4 core values at the firm, and that's excellence, we level up. So we're always trying to level up our customer experience, our work product, our reputation, everything. Service, we exist to serve our clients, our community, and each other. We take that real seriously, that we have a customer service attitude. It's not like coming into like a stodgy law firm and let's go look at my law books. It's like, hey, how can I make this as decent of an experience as possible? Teamwork, we win or lose as a team. I think that's our defining characteristic. We've got a really, really amazing team at the firm, and really like together, everyone achieves more, but like, no, for real, we do. And so we're able to leverage a lot of different skills, a lot of different background, to help serve clients. And then in integrity, we always do the right thing. Like nobody at this law firm, you're never going to have to wonder if they're lying, telling the truth, going to screw you over, anything like that, because it's a core value we live by, those at the firm.
Gotcha. Well, that's wonderful. That's great. So you've been practicing law for a while. You've clearly got a successful practice there. But I have to assume It's not all sunshine and roses. Nobody bats 1,000 if you have enough at bats. And I'm sure you've had at least once or twice in your career when you suffered what you would consider to be a failure or a setback. So maybe a case didn't go the way you expected it to go. Maybe your client said the wrong thing or a witness said the wrong thing. Can you let my listeners know, Hannah, about a time in your practice of law where you experienced what you'd consider a failure, but what did you learn from that, and how do you carry that forward to make sure you're always bringing your A game? How do you level up from that to make sure you're always bringing your A game to your current clients?
Yeah, and we'd have to be here a long time to talk about all the ways I've messed things up. To be honest, I mean, I feel like if you're not failing, you ain't trying, you know? So I'm always trying. I adopted a growth mindset, particularly a few years ago when I understood what that meant. I played it safe in a lot of ways before that, always wanting to be like A plus, as perfect as possible. But I've really tried to push myself and be out there on the edge of growing and learning. So I say all that to say there have been many, like what comes to my mind, especially most prevalent or like forefront for me is the like running of a firm. Because when I started, it was just me and my sister. There were two of us back in 2018, and now there are 30. So like along the way, I've made a lot of different mistakes. Gotten a couple things right, but like more than anything, when it concerns building your team in the very beginning of a firm is difficult. Like it's like a big boulder trying to get it downhill. And I didn't know anything about being a manager of people or how to do it or how to set expectations or KPIs, key performance indicator,
Yep.
all of that. So like learning to manage a team is probably where some of my biggest failures have been. I think you can ask them, I guess, but I think I've gotten better and learned a lot, especially the last couple of years. Once I had a senior administrator help who has a lot of experience in this and help teach me how to do that better. But if I had a magic wand, I'd go back and change some of my management choices. I mean, largely I didn't know better, and I believe once you know better, you got to do better. And I'm trying, but there's been some bumps for sure.
That's fair. Again, nobody bats 1,000. You're bad enough. Eventually, you're gonna miss here and there. It happens. But as long as you're growing, as long as you're learning from it, that's the most important part. I've always been a firm believer in that. So,
Yeah.
um, that being said, I'm sure you've had some amazing wins as well. I'm sure you've had maybe days when you went into court, you went into a hearing or whatever it is, and you thought things were gonna go one way horribly against you, but everything turned and turned out perfectly and went better than you could have expected. Can you let my listeners know maybe about one or two of the times in your practice of law where you were surprised even by the success you had, or just one of the cases you're the most proud of? Share as much as you're able to share, obviously.
Yeah, I mean the case when people ask me about cases, um, that comes to my mind always is a case that started as a probate referral. Like it was sort of somebody called in wanting a probate, and I ended up talking to them like actually they were saying they needed help for their stepdaughter in a family law situation. Like
Hmm.
okay, and so it sort of started wonky, and then come to find out, I thought it was supposed to be a Bexar County case. I was living in going back and forth. I don't remember if I was in San Antonio still then or not. But anyway, the case I thought was going to be a Bexar County case. Reasons, it actually was a Fort Worth case. So I had to do a case out of Fort Worth, which is its whole own thing, which I liked going up there, but with a pretty aggressive lawyer from Fort Worth, and I was much newer at the time. And what happened was we learned that this child, the client's daughter, had been living in another state with a registered sex offender relative of her dad's. And we had reason to believe that ongoing abuse was happening with this little girl. And I had no idea when I got involved, believe me, that that's what was at stake. And we had to do service across state lines, get the child. Mom had to go get the kid in another state. The cops got involved. I mean, it was this whole thing like a Lifetime movie. But fast forward through much ado, and the little girl was living back in DFW with her mom. Actually, the dad had relocated, I think, to DFW, and they were co-parenting decently last time I knew of what had gone on, right? That everybody had kind of gotten some help. My client had some challenges in her history that she'd overcome. So So a lot of what we hear, especially as divorce lawyers, is when things are at their worst. And we often don't get the rest of the story. I'm like, I really wish all my clients would call me back and tell me like things got better and I'm doing good and whatever. But they don't. But in this situation, we've kept in touch for a while. And just like, I just think, what if I hadn't gotten involved, and what would be happening still to that little girl? So it's like, sometimes if you wonder, like, why do we do this? That's one where I feel real good about it. And I feel even better because it seems like everybody's lives improved some through that situation. So I'm proud of that. And it's kind of also to one of the crazier situations in law that I've gotten myself involved in, for sure.
Well, that actually is going to maybe dovetail into my next question. As I've learned, this is actually one of my favorite questions to ask because lawyers have a very unique experience on life. I'm sure you've also seen some absurd things. You probably can't go more than a couple of weeks without encountering some sort of random absurdity in your practice of law. What's one of the weirdest or most absurd things you've encountered in your practice of law?
I was thinking about that question. I don't have a bunch of that. Like, I mean, really, the clients and stuff that I deal with are pretty. Oh, wait. Nope. I just remembered a situation, actually. Okay.
I knew there was one.
Wait a minute. Yeah. I got involved. Oh, man. How do I even tell that? In a situation where I had to go again. It's whenever I go up to some other random county I don't belong in for whatever reason. I was up in this other random county, and when I came out of the courthouse, a man in a hoodie and glasses was videotaping me, and it was in connection, I believe, with one of the litigants in the case who was involved with one of these sort of interesting sects. I don't know how you call them. People who have different views about the government and its sovereignty and authority and all of that. And so there was a situation where I found myself kind of being someone they were interested in knowing more information about. I don't know. They were recording me when I left the courthouse, to the point that I like took off out of town. I called a mentor of mine. I was like, oh my God, what do I do? I think they're recording me. And he's like, get out of town now. Don't stop for lunch. Go. So I sure did. I hopped in my car and just like immediately came back down to Austin. So that was one of the more wonky situations I found myself in, for sure. There's that case is a whole thing. It would take us hours.
Well, and that's very interesting in part because I've actually talked to at least one other attorney who had a very similar experience, and they said they couldn't come up with the name of it, and I eventually sussed it out on the talk where we were talking. I said, "Is it the sovereign citizens movement?" And it sounds like that's who you encountered too. I've never encountered this group. I just was kind of Googling around to figure out what it is. And I'm not here to start any trouble with anyone that's in this movement, but I just found it interesting that you're actually the second attorney I've talked to who's
Well,
had a
I'm
really,
not saying it's them.
and I'm
or
not saying it was
isn't
them or not them.
exactly. I don't know. I can't recall the name of the group at
This is
the
fair.
moment.
This is fair. This is fair. I will say I had somebody have a similar encounter with the sovereign citizens group. Whether that was who you encountered, I cannot say. Neither can you, and that's totally fine. That's interesting. It really is kind of weird. So let's talk a little bit more about your practice of law. How do you do? Well, first off, let's talk about you. You've got, 4 kids. You got a husband. You got a life. I'm sure being an attorney keeps you very, very busy. How do you manage the personal life, the work-life balance? How do you do that without going crazy? And how old is your youngest?
Yeah, so I have 4 kids ranging from going to be 17 in a couple months to 3 years old. So I have 3 bigs and a little.
There you go.
I love what I do. This question, I think, assumes a little bit that, the difficulty in it. I don't know. I think I really wake up every day and think how lucky I am to get to do this, to get to help people and do so. I legit would do it for free. Because I had an experience recently where I encountered the question, like, okay, if I won the lottery, right? You have that, what would you do if you won the lottery? When a lot of people say all this stuff, and, I'm sure I might take a couple weeks or something, but what I came back around to is, what I do? I do exactly what I'm doing right now. If I had kind of all the money in the world, I swear I'd still be doing this, because I really think that we make a difference in the lives of the people that we work with. I know that we all together make a difference in the lives of the people who work here. Like, it's such an honor that I get to help provide an amazing place to work for a group of people who've had, varying degrees of, kind of crappy places they've worked in the past. And to give them a really great place to work, where they're compensated fairly, treated with respect. I love that. So I don't know, for me, it's not as much, trying to balance, like, in this, oh no, everything's heavy way, but in this really grateful perspective of that I get to do this for my job. Now, I mean, practically speaking, I have a lot of help. So I've helped with really great help with the kids. I have a great administrative team around me. I have a great assistant at my house too who helps with some. I mean, so, like, the things I can delegate out, I mostly do, so that I do the things that I'm meant to do and that are within my kind of zone of purpose. And then other people can help with some of the other stuff and that's in their zone of purpose.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense. Um, I had another question I was going to ask, and just it was related to that, and I don't remember what it was. It might come back to me in a minute. That's okay. Um, so let me ask you this: having practiced law for a while now, things are always changing. Like, the last 10 years of humanity has been probably the weirdest 10 years in all of human history. Like, it really, we've had so many just crazy changes societally, from social media to obviously the lockdowns we went through, and everything else. It's a really weird time to be alive. I think it's the strangest time to be alive, regardless of how you feel politically about anything. I'm sure that there have been some rapid changes in the realm of family law as well, maybe related to social media, maybe related to other things. But what are some of the biggest changes you've noticed in the legal space since you started, and what do you see coming down the road as the future of legal? Do you see or future of family law? Do you see some really big things that are about to really shake things up, or do you think it's going to kind of be status quo?
No, I think clearly, probably everybody would say the biggest change of late is the zoomness of it all. That for court, you don't necessarily have to go in person for every little thing. I mean, and the ability to do Zoom, even us to have this conversation via Zoom, right? And I did a deposition this morning before I got on here. It was via Zoom. The people, who knows where everybody even was, on that Zoom. So I think that would be the
Or if they
biggest.
had pants on?
Yeah, let's hope so. But then I think the change that's coming, or a challenge that the family law bar in particular has to get ourselves ready for, is the impact of AI on evidence. So, you see some of these pictures and stuff online, these deep fake videos, and now anybody pretty much can use AI to create a pretend picture. So I
Yeah.
think just authentication of those exhibits. I think being aware, just because you see it doesn't make it so, although it's hard sometimes to unsee things. So I think the impact of AI, particularly with regard to audio and visual evidence, I don't know how prepared we are for that.
It's interesting. I actually was just reading a story yesterday, and I don't know if I'll be able to find it, but there was a as a principal at a school somewhere, and there was an audio of him being like a terribly racist individual, talking poorly about students of various colors. And this audio leaked, and there were all these calls for him to resign, to get out of there. But the one problem was they found out it was a fake audio, because you can dub audio now
Ugh.
too, right? You can train something on someone's voice, and it came out that it was fake. But there are so many people that will never hear the flip side of that, that it was fake, that it wasn't real. And they're gonna think, oh, that's that racist principal who went off on all of his, black students, or whatever it happened to be.
Terrifying.
And yeah, it's absolutely terrifying. And those are threats that are fundamentally unprecedented in human history. Like, I don't know how to parse that data. I do find it both fascinating and terrifying at the same time. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out, especially in the court of law. And of course, Chat GPT can now pass the bar with a 90% success rate, right? The GPT-4, GPT-5, whatever it was, passed it not that long ago. So, like, you're going to start having virtual paralegals and all sorts of things. It's a really weird time to be alive, and I'm terrified and fascinated at the same time.
Yeah,
That's my person.
it's both. I think it's exciting and awesome, and it's not going to be without its challenges for sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, let me ask you this. If somebody finds himself looking down the barrel of oncoming divorce. They can see the writing on the wall. What should they do? What are the best steps to take? Starting, right out the gate, or does it matter if it's the partner that files first? Are you at an advantage if you file first? What should people bear in mind if they can kind of see this coming towards them?
Yeah, just the simple, easy question. I don't think it matters who files first. 9.8 times out of 10, it doesn't matter. There are some circumstances where it may give you some practical advantage, kind of, but I wouldn't lose any sleep over that. I think the first thing to do really would be to start to talk to a lawyer confidentially. Do so in a way that, like, if you're not ready to get divorced or whatever, talk to a local lawyer who can give you some advice specific to your situation, even if you just pay for the 1 hour, right? Like, hey, I'm thinking of getting divorced, not right now, but it may be coming 6 months from now, a year from now, whatever, so that you can get some advice on your current situation and let someone with hopefully an objective ear hear about your family, your daily habits, your money, all of that, and give you some advice of what you should do. Because probably they're going to tell you things like gather up all your documents, especially tax returns, bank statements, some of those things that once a divorce gets started, people sometimes find their way off of bank accounts and off of credit card statements and things like that. So gathering those before it happens, making sure you can get a copy of your tax return. It's not that you can't eventually get that stuff, but it can add more expense, time, and effort if it's difficult. So I'd gather up all my paperwork. I'd make sure that I was as squeaky clean as possible in every area, in terms of, like, make sure your social media doesn't have a bunch of gunk on there. Make sure that, you're being as active as you, would want to demonstrate in your kids' lives. Make sure that you've got a financial plan, because, nobody gets divorced because it's cheap or fun, so it's going to cost significant amount of money, no matter how you slice it, to get divorced. So making sure you have access to some funds or to some credit cards or something to be able to fund this. You don't want to be like, oh, I think I'm going to get divorced tomorrow, which, people don't do that, but faster than you might think. And then not have a plan of, like, if you're cut off from all the bank accounts and credit cards, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
So we need to make sure you've got access to money for fees. You've got access to money to pay your bills, go to the grocery store, put gas in your car. So I would start to get a financial plan together. And I think that the last thing I would tell people is to get as clear as they can on their goals, like what they're wanting to do, what they're trying to accomplish. Do they have like a safety net, like a network to help support them through this? Getting that part clear, because it gets bumpy. For most people, it gets really bumpy. So making sure that you're sort of as emotionally ready as you can be to do this is sort of part of that goal / self-assessment process.
Gotcha. What do you think is one of the biggest misconceptions people have about the divorce process, or what's one of the biggest misconceptions people bring into your office thinking you can take care of, and something that's just like, I'm sorry, that's outside of my wheelhouse, or just how they misunderstand the whole process?
I think they think that, like, a lot of times women will think, oh, I'm the mom, I get the kids primarily. That is not how the law works. It may practically in some situations be part of the calculus, but in sometimes very not. And then I think they might think that if they pay a lawyer to accomplish a goal, the lawyer can be a magician and just, like, pull their rabbit out of their hat. Like, no, this is the thing. Let me say another way to say that is, a lot of times people will think of the law as one big technicality. Like, okay, well, the law says this, and people say, the law says this, and they did that, and that's illegal. Like, oh, okay, it's illegal. All right. Well, the family law in particular, there are some technicalities. Okay, so there are some technical things, but more than anything, it's sort of the spirit of things. Like, yeah, can you do that thing you want to do? I guess so, technically, but I'm going to advise that you don't, because of the way that's going to play out. I'm trying to think of an example of, well, like, my decree says technically I can do it, and I'm like, look, if you're saying words like technically, you're losing. Okay,
Yeah.
so just really considering and listening to a lawyer tell you about the spirit of the law and like how that would be perceived by the judiciary or by the experts in your case would be very important. And I don't think that's clear to people who are not experienced in this world. I know it's not, because even other lawyer friends of mine are like, what? When they hear the way some of the family law stuff goes, at least where I am in Texas.
Funny. Have you ever had clients, a client who comes to you in the process of a divorce and in the process of going through everything, they reconcile with their partner? Does that ever happen?
Oh, all the time. Yes, we always tell them like, look, we celebrate that. We love families around here, so like, I am happy when people can reconcile. I mean, I also usually think they'll be back, right? Not everybody comes back. A lot of like, we've had some people who will come start stop like 3 or 4 times. Like, okay, guys,
Yeah.
probably something's broken in this marriage. But I always tell them, do not be afraid at all. Don't like be worried or not want to tell us that you're reconciled. Like we are happy for you and think that's awesome. So yeah, it happens with a degree of regularity for sure.
You ever had a client who was really, let's say, who really wanted full custody of the kids, but in your opinion, maybe that wasn't the best idea? Does that ever happen? And if so, how do you balance something like that? Or is that really just kind of a non-issue?
Yeah, I mean, I think sometimes people will come in wanting more custody of their children or possession time of their children than they currently exercise when they could have exercised all they want, right? So they sort of want it in the divorce increase the amount of time they're with the kids and things they do. And it's like, look, for the last 8 years of their life, you kind of, were gone. Like you had a job that made you gone all week, every single week. And some weekends you went on trips. Like, and all of a sudden now you want them 50% of the time. Like that's unlikely to happen. So I think sometimes people will come in wanting more because it's like it makes them more right or makes their ex wrong or they want to pay less child support or some of these other reasons. And I always tell people, I get their permission up front. Like, are you the sort of person who wants me to tell you what you need to hear or what you want to hear? Because I'm gonna tell you what you need to hear, a lawyer, and I'm just gonna say, like, we're not doing that. I'm not doing that. And I mean, ultimately, we work for the clients, but we really try as possible to get aligned on strategy with the clients, so we're all on the same page. I'm gonna tell you, like, we cannot go in and ask for you to be the primary parent when you've barely done anything this kid's whole life. Like, you don't know the name of their teacher, you don't know their pediatrician, you don't know who their best friend is. No, you're not going to be able to be the primary parent. Like, that's not happening. I'll just tell them. I mean, I just tell them how it is.
It's fair. And again, a little dose of truth, I think, is very important in life in general. I think truth is always in the right. Looking forward, Hannah, where do you see Hembree Bell Law in 5 years? What are your goals for your practice, and where do you want to be in 5 years?
Well, I think we'll be an evolved version of exactly what we are now. I mean, like I said, the vision for us is to be the premier good guy, good gal law firm, family law firm in Central Texas. Now, I would see us adding more of the estate planning, which we already do. It's just not like our main practice area, but that and family law go together so well, and our clients are always needing help with that. So every person who's going through a divorce needs a new estate plan, period. So that makes sense. So I could see that expanding. We're working on some offerings for people who are divorced and still dealing with custody drama to give them some education and equip them with some skills and tools. So I would see some of our services in that area really having taken off, and considering doing some coaching and sort of group work. So some of that legal adjacent type of stuff, I think we'd be doing a lot of that by 5 years from now. And I really hope to still keep the spirit of the firm of practical, real world advice for real folks that's also leverages technology with a fresh, modern, communicative approach, and that is like an amazing place to work. More than anything, I really hope that in 5 years we keep those core values at the forefront so that our team can be the best, strongest team, an amazing place for attorneys, paralegals, legal team members, admin to work, And then when that happens, they do better in their jobs, they serve clients better, and then families and children benefit, which is ultimately what I care about. So I would think doing what we're doing now, just sort of like, more of it, I guess.
Status quo, just more status quo. That's fine. That's totally fine.
Yeah.
Um, well, I appreciate your time, and I don't want to take up your entire afternoon. I'm sure you've got other things to do. So here in a minute, I'm going to ask you my final two questions, just as a reminder for you. You can kind of percolate on these for a minute. Question number one is, if we can go back in time, meet young Hannah, and give her some advice. What advice would you give yourself, and why, other than the obvious, which is buy a lot of Bitcoin and hold it till 60K? And
Mm.
two, and then you could work for free, right? And number two is, if I gave you my magic pen, this particular pen is from Mint CRO, Conversion Rate Optimization Experts. And when they sent me this pen, I found out it was a magical pen. And it can strike laws from the books, it can edit laws that are on the books, or it can add new laws to the books. And if I were to loan you this pen and let you write, alter, change, or delete one law, what law would you change and why? While you're percolating on that, let's jump back over really quickly and take a look at your site. Again, I am talking to Hannah Hembree Bell of Hembree Bell Law. You can visit them online at hembreebell.com. They are a full-service family law firm in Texas. They also do estate planning and other forms of general counsel, etc. You can look them up online at hembreebell.com. Link in the description as always. I'll try to put a link to their Instagram as well. Lots of good social media stuff out there. You can get a free case evaluation on their website, or pick up the phone and give them a call at 512-580-7388. That's 512-580-7388. Again, I'm talking to Hannah, and it's been a pretty good conversation so far. And she looks like she's got a great head on her shoulders, and would be a wonderful resource for you if you are in the Central Texas area. Our last sponsor today is Rank with News. If there was a guaranteed way to get your law firm or your business featured in major national publications like Business Insider, Yahoo News, Forbes, Bloomberg, and others, and to see those articles ranking locally or even nationally, sometimes in under 8 hours, for major competitive keywords that people were looking for, what else would you need to know? Rank with News is simply the most powerful way to hit page one in under 2 weeks, safely, organically, and permanently. This is functionally guaranteed SEO, or search engine optimization, on steroids, ranking quickly and sticking indefinitely. If you're tired of poor visibility for your business, visit rankwith.news or rankwithnews.com to learn more and book a time to speak with a specialist about featuring your law firm or your business in major national 8-figure traffic sites that can launch you to page one of Google in a matter of hours and help you dominate your local marketplace. Get media exposure, rank higher in Google, build credibility, and win more customers and clients with rankwithnews.com. All righty. So, question number one to you, Hannah. We go back in time, you meet young Hannah, fresh out of law school, and you're able to give her some advice. What advice would you give yourself, and why?
Okay, so law school, Hannah. I was trying to like think about
Well,
what time
if you'd rather do
who's
fresh out of
younger.
college or fresh out of high school, Hannah, maybe we can give all three of them some advice.
I think I would tell her never settle. Just don't settle. Um, and to get to know yourself fully, have experiences on your own, have experiences by yourself, so that you know your preferences, your standards, the things you care about, and that you would sort of never compromise on those. Not in a way that's like a stick in the mud, but I think so many of us, especially women, as we're younger, just don't take the time to do that, and immediately having kids, and like before you know it, you find yourself in lots of situations. So I would say don't settle.
There you go. Unless it's a legal settlement, in which case sometimes you have to sell, right?
Yes, and then always settle. Right.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Well, question number two, I give you my magic pen. And with this magic pen, again, you can strike a law from the books, you can edit a law that's on the books, you can add a new law to the books. And this can be a law with national ramifications. It could even be a law with international ramifications, maybe even galactic ramifications. But it also could be a tiny little stupid law that forces you to fill out paperwork in triplicate 8 times a week, or maybe even a law that has nothing to do with your realm, but you just hate getting parking tickets. What law would you change, Hannah, and why?
I mean, I was thinking about that. I hadn't really thought about this question before. Like in Texas, in the family law context, there are some third parties who get involved in cases. And I find the law, like about amicus, guardians, things like that, amicus attorneys or attorney ad litem, like all of that is pretty confusing. There's some overlap, there's some holes. So I would probably use that pin to rework that area of the law. I think it could use some adjustments.
All right. Well, that's at least it's a good starting place, and it's either that or the parking tickets. So there we go.
Yeah, hey, that'll work. I'd like it to like any law that would give Hannah Hembree Bell tickets for parking exactly where she wants in downtown Austin. I would strike that one too.
There you go. There you go. Or maybe you get to collect all the fees from the parking tickets. I'm just saying.
Hey, maybe.
Nice little rack. Well, Hannah, thank you very much for meeting with me today. I do always like to let my guests have the last word. Are there any parting words of wisdom that you'd like to leave our listeners with?
I think I'd tell him just the same thing I'd tell young Hannah, just so like you only get to live life one time, and it really is going to be what you make it. And if you are not living your own lottery ticket life where you'd wake up and do exactly what you're doing now, even if you won the lottery, then I suggest you not stop until you find it.
Advice. I think that's advice that just about anyone out there can follow. So thank you for that. Well, Hannah, thank you very much for taking the time to talk with me. This has been The Attorney Post. I've been chatting with Hannah Hembree Bell of the eponymous law firm that bears her name, hembreebell.com. As always, although this podcast does deal with lots of legal topics, this podcast does not itself constitute legal advice. And if you have a legal issue, you should always seek the advice of a competent attorney in your area who focuses on the matter that you need help with. Of course, if you're in the Central Texas area and you're in need of a family attorney or an estate probate planning attorney, it sounds like Hembree Bell would be a wonderful resource for you. And it looks like you can get a free consultation by reaching out on their website. So again, as always, we'll have links to her website, her phone number, and everything else down below in the description. So if you're in the Texas area, please feel free to reach out to her. I think she'd be a wonderful resource for you. This has been The Attorney Post. As always, I am your host, Justin West. If you're listening to this on YouTube, we always appreciate a like, a subscribe, and a share. Feel free to comment down below if you learned something new in this podcast today. And of course, if you're on any of the podcast repositories, feel free to like or rate or whatever it is they allow you to do. And most importantly, if you know somebody else who's out there who maybe is in the Texas area and needs a family law attorney, share this with them, because at the end of the day, as I always say, and it's the same for them as it is for you, if you don't know your rights, you don't have any. Until next time, this is Justin signing off. Thank you guys, and bye-bye.